I'm Alan Robarge, a psychotherapist and a relationship coach. Welcome to Improve Your Relationships, where I like to talk about attachment injuries and healing attachment trauma. And on this video, let's talk about practicing better communication. And when we practice better communication, we're nurturing the skills of being more skillful and more effective in our communication. And when we do this, it fosters strengthening our attachment bonds, strengthening closeness, building emotional connections, as opposed to alienating each other or creating confusion or not getting our needs met. We use communication as a tool to continually reinforce the attachment bonds that we have with others. So here's a way I'm going to map out for you very specifically some things that you can think about to support this better communication. Now, I'm excited about this video and to let you know that I have a new handout that I'm referring to here, and if you want a copy of it, you can sign up for it. The title of the handout, the title of this approach that I'm offering is called the 5-Star Format for Better Communication. And so if you want to get a copy of this document, just go to alanrobarge.com /the number 5 and then the word star, S-T-A-R, the 5-star format for better communication. And it's broken down into 2 specific areas, or with 2 key specific approaches in mind, and that has to do with asking for advice or offering feedback. This document and the structure is what we are using in the community membership website, Improve Your Relationships. It is a foundational document, a foundational teaching in order to facilitate creating culture and to facilitate how we communicate. However, the ideas here are not just for a online community and not just for operating within a group context. You can use these ideas in all of your relationships with partners, with people you're dating, with friends, family, whoever it is, coworkers. There's some good ideas here when it has to do with the give and take, the back and forth, the exchange of communication with regards to who's initiating and who's receiving, and then how those roles reversed, and then you initiate back again. Let me jump into this content so that it makes sense. I'm calling the 5-star format a better communication because there's 5 bullet points to think of whether or not we're focusing on asking advice, or whether or not we're focusing on or whether we are focusing on offering feedback. Let's start with the category of asking advice. And the 5-star format, the 5 areas have to do with name the facts, name your feelings, name your judgments. What are your strengths? How can you acknowledge leading from a strength? And then lastly, it's about what would you tell a friend? So let's back up just a minute and think about in the context when conversation is not going well. And oftentimes that has to do with the rhythm, and there's a lack of a sensitivity of how to come into a shared synergy or a shared rhythm of communicating. If someone just blurts something out or is focusing on their own process without acknowledging the other person, what happens is they're leading from confusion, and then this is going to create confusion in the listener. So the point of this 5-star format is many of us, particularly the content I'm talking about here, if we're talking about relationships, when we're really asking for advice, we're coming from a place of confusion and concern, maybe frustration, and maybe our emotions have gotten the best of us. Maybe we're hooked into seeing things in a certain way that we're seeing them through a lens, some judgment, some spin that we've put on something, and we're just looping in this place to try to make sense. And so if we ask for advice and we're reaching out for someone to understand us, We want clarity, and we want to calm the confusion. We also might want some direction as far as, well, what are some options as far as what we can do? Well, what's going to help is how we present this to the person who's listening. But also, if we present it in a structured way, that will simultaneously create some clarity for ourselves. So that's the intention behind mapping out. Just name the facts first, the facts of the situation. Just name your feelings next. Just identify, well, what are the feelings associated with what's going on in the situation and your concern. Then identify your judgments. It's really important to notice how the judgments are third, because we often lead from the judgments and we often fuel the negativity or the intensity, or we fuel the confusion of the judgment. So if we start with just the basic facts, that's a way of doing reality testing to say, okay, what is really going on here? What happened? Point A happened, then point B happened, then point C. And then we drop into, well, how do I feel in this moment? Not so much how do I feel about the situation, but just how do I feel right now? The reason why there's some gray area if we say how do I feel about the situation, because that usually pulls us and sucks us into the judgments, which is the third category, the third point on this 5-star, on this point system of, a star with 5 points. Facts, feelings, judgments, which are negative beliefs. The judgments are going to clarify what are our negative beliefs that we are placing on top of this situation, and how is that fueling more perhaps an emotional response if I'm investing in that particular judgment. And then the fourth point of the 5-star system has to do with, can you acknowledge your strengths? That means instead of getting mired down in confusion and negativity and questioning what's going on, can you take a step back and see something positive within yourself, some goodness of the situation, something that you can rely on that is helping shore you up to make sense of what you need to do next. So it might be a strength, naming your strength, a personal strength, but it also might be just naming a strength of the situation, of how you're learning something, or giving you a bigger picture perspective of that this is not all doom and gloom. And then the last one is to proactively think about how would you begin to solve your own question if you're asking for advice. How do you begin to solve your own dilemma? And this is in the context of, well, what would you tell a friend? The reason why it is important to lead with this or to offer this up in a conversation is it lets the other people know that you're not helpless and you're not dependent on, or you're not completely clueless or dependent on someone else giving you guidance. You're letting others know that you're engaging. It's going to be a collaborative process, as opposed to you putting the other person in a position to tell you what to do. If you don't offer some collaboration of insight of what you already know, what your resources are, what your skills are, how you might support a friend through the same situation, it's very possible then you're going to be closed-minded and not let in what the other person is going to say. So let me repeat these 5 points. This is how, the reason why I'm sharing this in the context of the new membership website, Improve Your Relationships, within the community, we can ask each other some advice and we can offer feedback. And if you have been in any type of online group, very specific, like a Facebook group or some kind of forum, I'm sure you're aware that sometimes these forums and these groups online can get very polarized and very negative and very extreme and even judgmental. And so what we want to do is we're trying to implement this 5-star format to give us some guidance and to create some structure so how we can raise the bar, raise our consciousness to be very mindful about how to be most effective in using, in communicating with each other. If we don't do this, we run the risk of what you might notice in other groups where we get stuck in venting and complaining. We get stuck in frustration and anger. Or it's also possible we get stuck oversharing too many details. So we're not even really, focusing on, what outcome do we want, or how do we, invite an outcome from other people. We might find ourselves sometimes looping in a solution-focused mode. Let's say if you're struggling with, a difficult feeling, let's say loneliness. And instead of being able to drop in and make sense to feel the loneliness, sometimes we really want to fix it. We want something to be better. And then we're just looking for, so no matter what someone else might offer, we find ourselves saying, yes, but how do I make it better? How do I get rid of it? And so we're stuck on the solution-focused mode. If we use this 5-star format for better communication, we can really break down and just look at how we compartmentalize the different aspects of what might be going on. And sometimes that can ease us off of being so obsessive about needing to find a solution to something. And then also, we know what it's like when we're in any type of online group where people are projecting their judgments, they're opinionated, and they're stating things in a rather extreme way. If that's how you're leading, if you lead from that place, it's really going to limit the number of people who want to respond back. Again, let me repeat, I'm giving you these examples of how this plays out in some kind of online forum, because we're going to use this document in the community membership site. But these are the exact same things that show up in partner relationships. And that if our style or our approach is fixated and stuck in one of those of not being more open-minded to presenting the full range of what's going on, we're going to find that we're not bridging the gap and we're not making connection with the person that we're talking to. And then lastly, you'll notice that some people, when they like to complain and vent, they really don't want to take any responsibility or take action to actually do anything. So back to the 5-star format is that if we look at the very last one, what would you tell a friend? That really invites, like, okay, well, what would be the next steps of how you would offer some guidance? And then essentially you're talking to yourself, you're offering yourself some guidance as well. So let me repeat, for asking advice, it's facts, feelings, judgments. Name your strength, either strength of yourself or the strength of the situation. You're trying to lead with something positive instead of getting bogged down in the impossibleness of the reality. Some situations are really impossible, but we're trying to frame it in a way so that we have some resource there, some strength. And then also, how would you respond to a friend? What kind of supportive response if you gave that to a friend, how do you begin to give that to yourself? So this is very specific. You can set this up for when you are in, when you're in relationship or in an online forum where you're talking to people. Go ahead and experiment and use this. How this would look specifically is, let's say that the fact is, you're looking at the situation, the fact is he did not text back. So you're posing a question saying, I don't know what to do about this situation. Let me tell you what's going on. I'm having a difficult time managing some of, my feelings around this. I'm a little confused. And so if you would just begin to present what, the number one, what are the facts? And you'd say, well, he didn't text back. That's it. It's pretty simple. We went to dinner last night. We said goodnight, and then this morning there's no text, and at the end of the day I texted, and then there's no, whatever the story is. But you just focus on, okay, what actually happened? And you lead with that. The next one is talking about your feelings. And so you say, well, I feel unsettled and anxious. Or you say, I feel needy. I feel like I need a text. I'm feeling unsettled, I'm feeling anxious, and I'm feeling needy. And see how we just compartmentalize it, and we just want to look at, well, what are the feelings right now? And when you do that, you're actually going to be feeling them. You'll be slowing down to just acknowledge, oh yeah, this is how I feel. So we have facts, we have feelings, and then you can lead with your judgments. And you can say, he doesn't care about me. If he would text, if he would respond to the text sooner, that means he cares. And since he didn't respond, he does not care about me. Now keep in mind, this judgment, this core belief as a judgment that's coming up, I won't say core belief, but oftentimes it links to a core belief. You might have a history of feeling like people don't care about you. Do you see, if we map it out as facts, if we name the feelings, and by the time we get to the judgments, we're going to uncover some solidified belief, and oftentimes it's going to link to a bigger core belief of something that we have experienced many, many times. This person does not care about me. They do not care about me. My family does not care about me. And in this situation, the example, let's say the person that you are dating or with did not text back. And so your judgment that comes up is, oh, he doesn't care about me. If you map this out in these categories, it could really help you hone in on what are these judgments that are influencing your perspective, your outlook, and your feeling. Because if you believe that he doesn't care about you, but yet you have evidence to the contrary that in fact he does, that the only thing that happened is he didn't text. Nothing happened. He just didn't text. But you're assigning meaning, you're putting a layer of meaning on top of the scenario, and then you are what you imagine through that meaning is provoking a feeling state. And that's what's churning you in, that creates confusion that's churning within you. So facts, feelings, judgments, and then let's name some strengths. It could be a strength of the self, it could be a strength of the situation, and you can, one strength of yourself that you can remind yourself in that moment is say, hey, I've had this feeling before, and I know it's not about him, it's about me. And so if this is your situation, your example, you can say, and we could play with gender. You could say, that it's not about her, it's about you. In this example, if you want to name a strength of the situation, you can realize, hey, I felt like this before. It's not unique to this other person. This must be about my beliefs that people don't care about me. This must be about my anxiety. Another way of framing a strength of the situation is that you can do reality testing by saying, well, you spoke yesterday. You had a good time yesterday. There was no information or evidence that lends itself to believing that you're being rejected or that this person doesn't care about you. It just simply means that he or she did not text back. So if you just remind yourself of that reality, that's a way of framing the scenario from a position of a strength, as opposed to catastrophizing or saying, that, well, this is the end of the world, he or she's rejecting you, he or she got in a car accident and that's why they're not texting you, whatever it is. And I'm giving you extreme examples, but we have facts, feelings, judgments, name the strength, and then what you would tell a friend. And in this situation, you could say, this is about your anxiety. And you can choose to make yourself dependent on him or her alleviating your anxiety, or you can learn some skills to work with your own anxiety and to understand where it's coming from, and then what tools you have in your tool bag to help yourself calm down and to help yourself get grounded. And so that might be something that you tell a friend. And that's just an example. You could say anything, but it's really going to start offering, bring us into a solution-focused mode, or at least begin to offer some resource, because most of us, when we're asking advice or we're in a situation where we're struggling with something, it's because we don't really have direction. And so this jump starts it so that you can start initiating what direction you might want to take. Facts, feelings, judgments, strengths, tell a friend. That's how we use the 5-star format for better communication specific to asking advice. And I'm going to repeat the same thing, a five bullet point approach, only slightly different for offering feedback. And again, this is helpful to all of us in any situations. You can use this. It applies in any scenario. But this is about affirm, mirror. That's number 2. Mirror means show that you listened. You're mirroring back what just happened. So you're affirming. You're making an affirming statement. You're mirroring back. You're going to start slowly. You're going to have a slow start as opposed to bombarding someone with a really strong judgment. You're going to slowly nurture them, pull them into the conversation instead of just dump a very strong statement. Next is you're going to join through your own personal experience. You're going to join with what the person said. And then lastly, you're going to offer a resource, usually from your own life. You can say, well, have you tried this or tried this? Or, here's this book. Here's the name of this book, whatever it is. So for offering feedback, if you're in a relationship with a partner, if you're in a relationship, with a coworker, and you're finding that you're receiving some information and you need to offer some feedback, here's a very structured approach that you can use. So the first thing, you're going to affirm what you just heard. And this is really, really simple. You just say, thanks for sharing, thanks for coming to me with this information. To affirm what the other person said is you say, oh, I hear you. I hear you. I hear that you're asking for advice. It's very simple, but you lead with the statement acknowledging the other person. Thanks for bringing this to my attention. Yes, let's talk about it. So the affirmation is a kind of, yes, we're on the same page, and yes, I'm ready to engage in the conversation with you. The next one is about mirroring. It says, show that you listened, and you just repeat back to the partner something specific that you heard. So you could begin with affirming by saying, thanks for sharing, and then to mirror back, you say, I totally relate to your situation. I heard that you said that you're stuck, and I heard that you want your partner didn't text back, and that you want him or her to text back. Yes, we can talk about this. Thanks for sharing. And I want to acknowledge that I can relate to what you're sharing, what it's like when someone doesn't text you back. So right there we have affirm. We have show that you listened by mirroring back, naming what the person's presenting. The next thing is you're going to start slow. So I'm not going to jump in and say, well, let me tell you what you need to do. You really need to XYZ. That's going to sound forceful. That's going to sound judgmental. And that's going to sound, at times, it can even come across as a little know-it-all. Or if you're offering feedback to someone that you don't even really know or know their situation, it can sort of lack any real context because you don't know this person. So in a way, it's just you being judgmental and, being gossipy. To gossip is to just talk about things that we ultimately know nothing about, but we're coming from a place of authority and as if we're, have an opinion and offering advice. So the goal of this 5-star format for better communication is to really limit these scenarios where we're leading from gossip or leading from judgment. And one way to do that, number 3, it has to do with starting slow. And what that you would say, you have some good insights. I'm hearing what you're saying. I hear how you mapped out, what all the components that are going on. And actually, I'd like to offer an alternative point of view. I would like to share with you something that I don't think that you're noticing right now. I don't think that I don't hear that you see it. And let me share with you my thoughts about this. So Please keep in mind my style is a little verbose and a little wordy, so you don't need to make it as wordy as I do. But you're having this, you're starting slow by easing into the conversation. Instead of just blurting out what a person needs to do, you're really prepping them to say, hey, I have some information. I would like to share it. Are we on board? Are you okay receiving it? Because I'm going to share it here if you're open. And when you take that pause, or there's you're starting from a slower delivery, it really creates buy-in. And let me repeat what I said earlier. This is not actually about the content. It's really not about giving advice or offering feedback. It's about strengthening connection. So when we do that, we are bridging any disconnect that we have with another person, and we're affirming that we are here. I'm here for you. I'm listening. I am going to offer some, very specific information that might be different from what you would want to do, but I want to make sure that you're on board with it and that we can go there together. And when you have this kind of intentional invitation, it really, really limits polarization. It really limits extreme points of view that are rigid, and then people are arguing, I believe this, and then I believe that, oh yeah, well, I believe this. You can bring someone into your point of view by leading from a place of acknowledging their point of view simultaneously. And that is what's meant by a slow startup. Again, you can use this with partners at home, with family members, with friends, with coworkers. And also, as I've already said, this is the way that you are invited to communicate in the community membership website. So we have Affirm, we have Mirror, we have Start Slow. The next, number 4 is about join the other person. You just share a personal experience, and you strengthen the emotional connection by saying, hey, I understand what it's like. I had a partner, I had a relationship, and there were so many times where text did not happen and hours went by. And in the early times of dating, like a whole day, a day and a half would go by, and it felt really weird because 3 days prior we were texting, frequently, and then all of a sudden there's this like falling off the face of the earth. So I just want to acknowledge, I know how provocative that could be to your nervous system and how this creates anxiety. So you see what I did there, that's an example, is by you leading and talking about yourself as opposed to focusing on analyzing the other person. So let me give you an example of how you could analyze the other person, which usually is not that helpful. Sometimes we like to go into trying to imagine what is going on for the other person. So we could create a lot of focus and spend a lot of time saying, well, the reason why he didn't text you is probably because he's emotionally unavailable, and he's really stringing you along, and he's manipulative, and he's playing you. I think that's what's going on. So do you see, I'm already engaging in gossip, and I'm talking about things. How the heck do I know? I don't know what's going on. But let's say I've had an experience of being strung along, and I've had an experience of someone who's sending mixed messages. Well, it makes more sense for me to say, well, I don't really know what's going on for this guy, but I have been in situations where I'm aware that I notice someone that I'm connecting with all of a sudden is unavailable, and how that impacts me. And over time, I realized that they were actually playing a game. Hey, I'm wondering, do you think that this person is playing a game? So that's another way to join, is to ask a question. And that's another way to create a slow startup, is by asking a question. Instead of just jumping into this absolute judgment of something ultimately that we don't know, because we don't know the other person. But if we ask it as a question, we can still make our point, but that's an invitation for collaboration as opposed to alienating the other person, telling them what to do. So let me repeat, I'm moving into number 5. We have Affirm, we have Mirror, we have Start Slow, and then we have Join, which is share your personal experience. And then lastly is offer some kind of resource. Say, well, you know what, at the time when that happened to me, I found this one book, I went to the library, this is the author of the book, and I just really loved it. And you might find this helpful. Another resource might be, well, have you considered taking a break from focusing on this relationship and hang out with your church? Do you have some kind of, community organization that is a support system for you? Could you tap into that and take a break? Because, I have this group of friends, and we always, meet up through this one organization. And when we're in this, it's a regular way that I get a break from obsessing about certain aspects of relationship. Whatever it is, I'm making it up on the spot, but you get the point. Lead with offering some resource, some real clear, concrete, hey, try this. Not so much from the point of view of telling the person what to do, but again, leading from, something that you found helpful for yourself. It's all about how we frame it. It's all about how, as we frame it, we're inviting the person in to collaborate with us, as opposed to talking at someone or telling someone what to do. This is going to go a very long way for the online community, for the membership site, but it's really going to go a long way in all your relationships. If you can think in these terms, and if you have other friends and a partner who also responds back in the same way, it's really going to enhance the back and forth flow, the synergy of being available to each other. Because again, it's not really about solving a situation. It's not really about the content or who said what and who did what, why someone didn't text it. It's about, in that moment, we're fostering connection through the shared experience of practicing communication. And the point of the 5-star format is to practice better communication. Real quick, lastly, I'm going to run through both of them as a review. When asking for advice, please consider leading, mapping out your ideas from a point of view of offering some facts, some feelings, name your judgments, which is going to usually be a negative belief. Acknowledge some strengths of yourself, strengths of the situation, the goodness of what's happening, as opposed to getting bogged down in just seeing things from a problematic point of view. And then also, how would you begin to answer your own concern or your own question as if you're talking to a friend? And in that way, you're practicing being a friend to yourself. And then for offering feedback, the same, to repeat, there's 5 things to think about. Can you lead with an affirming statement? Just acknowledge that there's a positivity to engaging into receiving what the person has shared. You're going to mirror back by showing that you listened. You're going to just mirror back something that you heard, and that's just going to let the person know that you're grounded and you're present and you're really receiving. And then you're going to have a slow startup. You're not going to barge through being, super opinionated and tell someone what to do. You're going to bring them on board with, hey, I have some ideas that I want to share. Are you open to this? Let me share my point of view. There's a slow startup, and that really endears people to being open and listening. Then we're going to join. We can join by sharing our personal experience, saying you're not alone because this too has happened to me and this is what happened. And that's when we get a chance to be vulnerable. So if the person is being vulnerable just by asking the question or asking for advice, you're also being vulnerable then in how you join and you reveal yourself through your own answer or through responding to the question. And then lastly, offer a resource, something that comes to mind that was helpful to you, a little phrase, a book, a website, whatever it is. But this way you can, it just says, hey, in addition to us working this out or trying to focus on getting some clarity, here's a tool for your tool bag. Here's some tools that I've used. And that's how we can use this as an educational format, as a learning format. And if we do this in the community membership website, this is how we're going to encourage each other. This is how we're going to support each other. And we're going to, over time, just amass a whole bunch of resources and be able to refer back to, especially if it's in the forum. There's a Facebook group that we're going to use this, think about the 5-star format when communicating in the Facebook group, but we're also going to use the 5-star format when we're posting in the forum. And I'm hoping the intent here is it's really going to enhance bringing clarity and deepen our conversations. So play around with these ideas. To get this worksheet, to get this handout, if you would like it, go to alanrobarge.com/5 5-star. I hope you can feel or tell I'm a little excited about this. I'm curious to see how this plays out and really enhances the quality of the community that we're creating. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to this video. There's more videos just like it on the way. And thank you for watching. See you next time.